There was an open space in Langkawi, and maybe 2-3 years ago, for the World Bank. It was the second last of the very large programs I did with the World Bank. Previous 2 open spaces, both of them in Bali, had been extraordinarily successful and effective. There were 5-day-long open space programs, which no one in open space up till then had ever done before. Even Harrison was going to say, O'Brien keeps turning up around the world in various places and does extremely odd things, which was perhaps interesting. This one was kind of the end of 3 phases of the East Asia Pacific region development for the whole of the World Bank, which is a huge area from Mongolia down to Australia, across east as far as the Philippines, west as far as Thailand, and all the countries in between, and there's lots and lots of them, and all were represented pretty much, including India, who were there, and of course Washington had to be represented because they were the headquarters, and all that sort of stuff. And so we had an appropriate number of Washingtonians there, none of whom actually came from Washington, as it turned out. But there was one guy there who was the international general manager for the World Division of the World Bank, and he spent his time moving around from place to place. I don't remember what his name was. I keep thinking it was Bob King, but that's not true. And he announced to me on the Sunday night as we arrived in Langkawi that he'd been trapped into being here for 3 days. I don't ever stay anywhere that long. It's not proper. But somehow I've been caught into this web of intrigue, and so I'm here till Wednesday night. But I suppose I'll have to put up with it. I said, well, and I suppose I was supposed to say a lot more than that, but whatever that I didn't. And the next morning, as we began the open space, it was a very big area that we were in, and there were no walls. If you've been in that part of the world, you'll know that there are no walls because it's too hot. And there was lots of rain every afternoon about 4 o'clock, sometimes a little earlier. And the drain, and it just dried up almost immediately. You're on sandy territory and the water just disappeared. It was just a lovely place indeed. The following morning, people put stuff out, and we didn't put stuff on the walls, we put it on the ground, of course. The agenda things that you talked about. And the last, as we got towards the end of the time, which wasn't a fixed time, but obviously everybody put out, he stood up and put down a topic on the floor. The Singapore-based general manager of the region looked at me and I looked at him and said, well, how interesting. Nothing happened except that this guy kept in and out of sessions through the whole of the time. And then this session he'd set was 2:30 on Wednesday afternoon for 90 minutes, so it was to finish at 4 o'clock or something. And at the end of the program, he came steaming out of the group that he'd been working with. I've got to find Brian Bainbridge now. Where is he? So eventually he found me and said, I never knew these people had such brilliant ideas. I never knew that they had such insights into the way we should be working. I don't know why I've never found that out. I go and visit them all and stuff. I said, well, it might have something to do with the fact that you go and talk to them and get on a plane and go without actually staying for any time. He said, you might be right, much to his chagrin, but he accepted that. And then that same night before he left, he again, I've got to say goodbye to Brian Bainbridge because this has just been such an absolutely stunning development as far as the whole of the East Asia Pacific sort of area is concerned. Because I had nothing to do with it, I just was holding the space. But for him to kind of take that sort of trouble, and a man of that seniority in the World Bank, he's in the number 2 level from the president, he's the next immediate responding to one of those group, one of that group. He's no longer with the World Bank. He's now with, I think, International Red Cross in Geneva, if my memory is right. But that was a real turning point also, because it sort of meant the impact of what we're doing is, in fact, reaching into the very guts of what an organisation is about and changing them. It was the day after that that a lady from Mongolia said to me, my country, Father Brian, is a long way from Washington. And I said, oh, so? She said, if they're going to come and visit Ulaanbaatar, they will let us know a long time before. I said, so? So we will have everything ready for them so they can see what they want to see. I said, and then they will go home and we will go back to doing what we see needs to happen, which is serving the people of Mongolia, not what Washington says we've got to do. 3 years before, when I began this whole project, that couldn't have even been thought, let alone said or done. In that 3 years, there's been a shift in terms of that sort of mentality, which says our task as bank is to be of service to the people in our countries, as distinct from doing what Washington wants us to do. The shift of ground in that area is arguably immense, just immense. I do know, because I've heard from various people around the whole of the East Asia Division, the changes that they've put in place as a result of that. Some of the work that I've done with them since then, as well as in Washington. I mean, it's arguably one of the largest international entities in the world. Not quite as important as the United Nations, but next level down, the IMF and World Bank would be in the next category. And arguably more important than the US government in that regard, that it's got to reach into countries that the United States government, while it may be present in those countries, it doesn't reach in a contributory fashion, whereas the World Bank was and is doing that, as I would see it at this stage. What's happening in the World Bank these couple of weeks, I don't know, because I haven't been in touch with Singapore this week or two, but I'll find out in time. I don't think it's about education. I think it's about change. I don't see myself in any way as an educator, academic in that sort of fashion. I see that what I do is helping people bring about some substantial change that they see they've got the potential for, but nobody's given them permission to exercise that potential. I don't know that I'm giving them permission, but certainly creating an environment within which that can grow. For me, the open space model, the open space way of, and for me, the pre-open space thing of team building, it's the only way that things can happen at this stage, as I see it. And one other turning point was being appointed here as parish priest. This was 4 years ago, 4 years, 3 months, and 2 weeks and 5 days at the moment. But anyway, and it seemed to me that instead of being a kind of a traditional parish priest, which is what I couldn't do anyway, where you're the controller, the initiator, the creator, the financier, all of the king of the realm, if you want, the god of the parish, if you want. I didn't see much point in any of that, and certainly there was no way I was going to do that. And so when I came here, people asked what I wanted them to do, and I said, well, what would you like to do? And I kept asking that question. That question has now disappeared completely from this place altogether. No one asks me what I would like them to do. They sort of come rather on the basis of saying, well, we're thinking of doing this. That'll be all right, won't it? I haven't found a time yet where I've had to say anything except, yes, of course. Not on the basis that they're right or wrong, but on the basis if they believe in it, they'll make it happen in a positive fashion, in a contributory fashion. And if they get halfway along and find that it's not working, they'll do the adjustment that's needed instead of coming back to me and saying, oh, it's bad news, we mucked it up and so on. So what I think has happened here, and whether the people see that or not, some of them do, but what I think has happened here is that the parish has sort of, in their language, has come back to life. A life that's their life, not the parish priest's life. I was somewhere yesterday and they were telling me, somebody was sitting here yesterday and telling me about, oh, we had Father so-and-so, he was wonderful. Then we had Father so-and-so, he wasn't so good. Then we had Father so-and-so at this parish, and he was just fantastic. And now we've got Father so-and-so, and he's all right. I really don't think I'll ever get into that as far as this parish is concerned. I don't think I'll ever be somebody that anybody will sort of say he was good, bad, or indifferent. And what I'm hearing people saying is that we're making this happen, we've done this, or we've changed the church, we've altered, we've built a school hall, as distinct from he's built a school hall, or he's got us to build a school hall, or he's done all those things. There are still some people who say some of that sort of thing, but they don't mean it the way the traditional controlling model amounted to, at least, as far as I can see. So it's, again, I don't know if that's a turning point, but the turning point has been appointing into a management position within the church. I've had other major management positions